lower 67 to 73.50 on a carcass basis. You do the math and you get a live price of $50.25 to $55.12. Illinois direct sows are steady, 38 to 45 for the heavyweight top. In the Missouri direct trade, we're steady to $1 higher today, bringing the price up on those lower money hogs, a $67 trade. Steady sow trade, Missouri direct, 39 to 42. Turning attention to the cattle trade, packer inquiry is still light going into midday, but it does seem to be improving, and we should see some business develop.
This is basically the heart of Iowa. It's all farms here, but you're not going to see any farmers, and that's the amazing thing about this. They've just disappeared. The buildings are here, the farmers aren't. These were all working farms 25, 30 years. That's what's hard to believe. And this happened, and I lived here and seen it happen and never realized it was happening till one day it was just over, you know? God, you wake up and you wonder what happened. People need to know this.
You wake up in the morning and look across the landscape and see hundreds of large poultry buildings and hog buildings. Kind of gives you an empty feeling in your stomach, because the land that they're built on will never produce feed grains again. I mean, it's rock and concrete. So you've taken some of the best producing land in the world out of production. This wasn't 500 head of hogs out here in grass or in a small building. We're talking 50,000 hogs in one site. We're talking 2,400 sows. We're talking lagoons that have 10 million gallons of sewage in them, two of them side by side.
We're basically living in an ocean of manure. We're completely surrounded by this stuff.
This is not something a normal farmer builds. This is a corporate structure to take over an industry, and in order to take over the industry, they had to get a law that protected them so that the people couldn't take them on.
We've had 12,000 hogs move into the neighborhood in the last several months. All the confinements around here have the lagoon or the pit built underneath the facility. There's one directly as the crow flies. There's one mile that way, and then there's another one 2 miles that way. So within 2 mile radius, we have 3 confinements that hold 4,000 hogs apiece.
You've got 6.8 million chickens in 220 acres. They're producing a tremendous amount of waste. They've got a 3 lagoon system, open lagoons out at the back end of the building. When those lagoons get full, or if there's flooding, we don't know what's going to happen to that. Is that going to spill over into the creek and go on down to the Mississippi River? Is it going to go into the groundwater? Nobody knows.
In 10 years from now, we're going to pay a hell of a price, because this land's going to be ruined, the water's going to be ruined, and these people are going to move to the next county, the next state. They don't care.
These large facilities started about in 1991. Maybe a little earlier. The first layer hen facilities started to be built in about 1989. And of course, none of us here had seen an 18 building complex before in our life. You know, we'd heard of farmers east of here that maybe had 1 million layer hens, but here you are with 1.8 million layer hens at one site. And that wouldn't have been quite so bad, but now we have 6.5 million layer hens on 4 different farms within a 3 mile radius. and plus several hog operations.
30 years ago in the state of Iowa, just as many hogs were raised as there are today. They were raised by family farmers. We had competitive markets. Family farmers could make a living raising hogs. That has completely reversed now.
We have a government and think tanks who are determined to turn agriculture over to the corporations rather than to let the families farm the land.
They are replacing all of those family pork producers, all of those family hog farmers, replacing people with confinements. You don't need very many people to work in one of these units.
The system wants every animal to be just like every other animal that comes through the processing line. Where we used to have a whole host of different breeds of hogs, now we're down to where probably the top 3 or 4 breeding lines probably represent 75% of the hogs that are being raised. The lack of diversity means a very high risk. It may be efficient in the short term, but it's a very high risk type of a food system.
Large producers come to Iowa for 2 reasons. Number one, we have more packing plants than any place else in the country. And number 2, we grow more corn, which is fed to hogs, than anywhere else in the country. If you're going to grow hogs, this is the place to be.
Well, we've lost all kinds of pork producers. I mean, we used to have all kinds of pork producers raising pigs. In Iowa, we had 30,000 pork producers raising pigs. I mean, you could not have a better economic development plan for a state than having 30,000 pork producers raising pigs.
We are being mined. That's what's happening in Iowa today. We're being mined by this corporate structure that's just taking our land, it's taking our money, and it's ruining our... It's bad.
We've lost so many of our markets and market opportunities. And this is a difficulty for livestock producers right now. We have very few alternatives, and unless we can try and develop these alternatives, I don't feel we can survive it. Corporate America is determined to take this thing over, and I think they'll succeed.